And now, in studio, bringing his Midwest values from the Show Me State to the land of San Diego. He's a triple threat, licensed as an attorney, mortgage broker, and a top producing realtor who's crushing the competition. Here to deliver you what's happening in the trenches of the market. Your host, Michael Gaddis.
Welcome back to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170. The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. And I want to talk a little bit about buying a home. And I know what happens when people want to buy a home. You know, all of a sudden, real estate people drop out of the woodwork. Literally. I mean, it's insane how the people, all of a sudden, everybody has a real estate license. It's kind of like, yeah, you know, your wife and you are sitting in your living room. You're like, yeah, I think it's time we bought a house. What do you think, honey? Yeah, it is. All of a sudden the phone rings. Ring, ring. What? And tell them how? Yeah, I haven't talked to you in years. Yes, yeah, we are thinking about buying a house. What, do you have my place bugged? Next thing you know, the doorbell rings. Ding dong. Next thing you know, there's Bob from the gym stand there, still in his sweats, right? He's still sweaty. He was just on the pec machine. Now all of a sudden he's at your door because, hey, I heard you're interested in buying a house. I'm a real estate agent on the side. You got all these people literally that drop out of the woodwork trying to help you. And you know, as you guys know, I'm also an attorney. So I'm a licensed California attorney. I'm also a real estate broker, and I am a mortgage broker. So I help people with loans. I help people with either to buy or sell a house. And I can help you in law if it relates to distressed housing. So if you're having problems with your house. So, and I'm a radio host. How about that? That's what I do every week. So anyway, so here's what I'm going to tell you. I get calls all the time from people. Now, I don't share a lot of these calls online, but I'm going to share one with you now because I think it really illustrates my point that if you are thinking about buying a house, you need to get quality representation. And the one thing that I'm going to tell you, and you guys really need to listen to me on this, is not all real estate people are created the same. We are not created the same. I did a little sound effect there, but here's why I tell you this. So I get a call last week from a guy who tells me that he was buying a house and he wanted to, he had an agent. And he was in trouble because basically here's what happened. He was buying the house, but there was a renter in the house, okay? So he was getting his loan through Wells Fargo. So Wells Fargo doesn't like it if you have a renter in it at the time you close the house. They have kind of a problem with that. They want the renter to be out. If you're buying as an owner-occupied, they want it to be owner-occupied. So as the process went on, his agent knew that he was having a little bit of problem with Wells Fargo. But needless to say, his agent encouraged him to release contingencies. Now what that means is whenever you have a purchase contract, you have three basic reasons that you could get out of a contract. Number one, you can get out of it if the house doesn't appraise for what you offered. So if you offer $500,000 and the appraisal comes back at $450,000, either the seller can renegotiate the terms, or you can just say, hey, I'm not interested anymore. You can get out, and your earnest money is protected because you have that in place. The second reason is if you can inspect it. And what that means is you have a right to inspect the property, and you can do whatever inspections you want. You can look into, the criminal activity in the area. You can look at, the physical condition of the house. You can inspect anything in that house you want. And at the end of the day, if you don't like what you see, you can back out. So that's your inspection contingency. And the third contingency is your finance contingency. The finance contingency is if for some reason you're unable to get the loan. Now, when you submit your offer, you're pre-qualified, but pre-qualified is not approved. You have to go through the actual approval process, and weird stuff can happen. And there are things that you can see in the approval. That come up in the approval process that don't necessarily come up in the pre-qualification process. There's an issue called payment shock, where if your payment is too high and they compare it to your old payment. Now, your loan officer is supposed to try to sift through as many of those potential pitfalls as they possibly can, but sometimes some of them slip through the cracks, which is why you have the finance contingency in the contract. So in this particular situation, the buyer who called me told me that he had put a substantial deposit down. We're not talking about the normal 1%. It was close to 4 or 5% of the purchase price. He put a very hefty deposit down, which I would never have encouraged him to do. That's too much money to put at stake. So, and especially since there was an issue with the financing, so you definitely don't want to do that. And when the agent was approaching him about releasing contingencies, he didn't want to do it. However, here's the catch: his mother was the one actually buying the house. So the person called me was the son, and they were kind of buying it together. But his mom was going to be the one on the loan, and she was like 75, 76 years old. So the agent went around him and pressed the mother to sign the contingency release. Well, sure enough, she signed it, and after the fact, it came time for close of escrow. Well, the problem was Wells Fargo refused to lend unless they could get the tenant out, so he was going to have to go to an alternative person to try to get the loan. So he was trying to find another broker to get the loan, but But here's the problem: when they went and approached the seller of the property didn't want to extend the close of escrow date. So what was happening? Well, he was going to have to exceed the close of escrow date because he had to get a new loan, and he couldn't close in that short period of time. And here's the problem he was in: he was facing he had a very large deposit at risk. He had given up all of his rights to get out of the contract and save his deposit. He had to get a new loan because of the renter situation, and the seller was not letting him extend the time period. So he was basically at risk of basically having the seller cancel the contract for non-performance by the close of escrow date and keep his deposit. Okay, so just to reiterate, that was what was going on. His real estate professional had told him release the contingencies, even though his real estate professional knew that there was a little bit something funky going on with the lending, and the real estate professional especially should have known that it was Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo can be a little bit tough in underwriting. So you definitely don't want to release your loan contingency in that situation until you absolutely 100% know that you've got this under control. So, and they should never have done that, in my opinion. So now he's calling me because he's worried that the close of escrow date's in a couple days and he's not going to be able to perform. He's got a very large deposit at risk, and he's got no reasons really to back out of the contract at this point or protect his deposit. So, what I told him is this: not all real estate professionals are created the same. And I've told everyone in the past that if you're going to pick somebody to help you on the buying side, it really behooves you to help somebody who either one has a legal background or two has a finance background. Now, of course, I happen to have all three backgrounds, real estate, finance, and law, but there's not a lot of people like me. So if you're in an area that I don't service, then you need to find somebody that has a finance or a legal background. The reason is because if you have experience in more than one discipline, you can understand how all of these things interrelate to each other. And if you're just going by straight real estate representation, then you could run yourself afoul like this guy has, where all of a sudden he's got an excessively large deposit, he's got all of his reasons to cancel have been given up, and now he's got a large deposit at risk because he can't close his loan in time because he's got to go get a different loan. So, it's one of those things where you got to really be careful about who you help. And here's the problem: most of you don't appreciate what it really takes to get representation in a real estate transaction. You think that real estate people are interchangeable. You think that Bob from the gym or Aunt Patty or whoever else that is out there, we're all the same, and that you're going to get the same quality of service no matter who you pick. And that is not true. That is not true at all. If you're going to go and purchase a $500,000 asset, it's because I think the median house price in San Diego County is what, $535,000, $540,000. You should really think about that, because if you're going to go out and let's say put a will together or something like that, and you'll do a lot of research and find the best person. But when you're going out and buying a $530,000 house, Bob from the gym sounds good, right? So my point is this: get good quality representation when you are looking to buy a house. It is really important that you vet your real estate professional. Vet them. Find out what experience they have. Find out what they bring, what they offer you. What do they bring to the table? Because you know what? That guy told me on the phone, he said, boy, I sure wish I had you on my side. And I'm like, I bet you do. That stuff doesn't happen on my watch. So I'm just telling you, if you need good quality representation, find somebody who can really help you. I mean, find somebody who's going to fight for you and who understands how everything fits together. That's the most important thing that you can do. So anyway, just let me repeat it one more time. Get quality representation when you buy or anybody you know wants to purchase a home. Very, very, very important. You can contact my office at michaelgaddis.com, and if you need to find maybe somebody or you want my recommendation, call my office, contact me, and I will help you out. After the break, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about why you should keep an open mind when considering a reverse mortgage. You're listening to The Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170, The Answer.